everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Lucid's 2022 Tournament Game 4, where we are playing Nazca. This is turn 94, and the lead up towards Vanheim continues. Just jump into things, shall we? Research. Evocation 8 completed this turn. And that's important for us. That gives us, I say important for us, that could be important for us. In a perfect world, that could be extremely important for us. Even in a non-perfect world, it's still important for us because it gets us access to Pillars of Fire. Pillars of Fire, or Pillar of Fire, rather, can be a very potent spell in the right instances. So this might give us the firepower to eke out an advantage in the right opportunities. Fingers crossed. We'll see. We're gonna head up Enchantment 9 now. See how that goes. What else do we have? We have Global. We have cast Stellar Focus. And it was actually successfully cast. So Global's for the turn. Nazca, Stellar Focus. This is nothing consequential. I guess, right, like, if the game goes another 30 turns, we could potentially, try to put up a really high Arcane Nexus cast. I don't think the game has that much time left. This Stellar Focus was less about getting Stellar Focus, right? Less about getting any global. Really, it was a chance to try to bounce globals. And we don't see anything else. So, if there was another global that got put up this turn, or tried to get put up this turn, it bounced off of something else, right? Off of our very high Well of Misery, very high Gift of Health, that type of situation. So, we don't really know. I guess we could go ask the players and be like, hey, did this lead to anything? But we're kind of just flying blind on that. It was a very low cost for us, and it'll return. We'll get some return on investment from the Stellar Focus itself. So, easy peasy. All of this other site searching that we did, unfortunately, did not amount to anything. We've been getting a few gem increases from the Pelagian territories, from site searching the Pelagian territories, but nothing this turn. So that's our first wash, I think, actually. And then we have a couple of events. No battles, a couple of events this turn. Unexpected event in Bara. Prophets of Woe were right. Famine has struck, so we lose population, gain unrest, and gain death. In Tears of the Pantocrator, a local lawman has been found frolicking with fairies in the wilderness instead of carrying out his duty, so we get turmoil and unrest. In Silver World, foreign priests have infiltrated the local church of Odysseus, guardian of the Tablets of Destiny, and corrupted central tenets of faith, so we lose our dominion in Silver World. In Old Man Mountains, heavy snowfalls have blocked important trade routes, so we lose gold, a fair sum of it too. And then again, in Tears of the Pantocrator, a series of unfortunate events have redirected important trade routes to other areas, so we lose province income. That's a whopping 5 negative events this turn. I think most, if not all of it, right? Bara's out of our dominion, Tears is out of our dominion, Silver World was in our dominion, but now has shifted out of our dominion, and Old Man Mountains is out of our dominion. So, really unfortunate that our luck scales, right, have been very useful for us in the game, but they really haven't been paying much dividends in, I think, the last 20 turns or so. And as we have lost dominion and as we have gained land, suddenly we're just having to deal with a lot of bad events. It's really unfortunate. So events for the turn, 5 negative, 0 positive. Bara population, -120. Unrest, +8. Death, +1. Tears, turmoil, +1. Unrest, +11. Income, -20. Oof. All painful. Silver World, Dominion changed, and we lost 245 gold. Really probably the worst turn that we've had as far as events go. That was pretty rough. So yeah, got that going, I suppose. Some scouts back and forth scenario. What are we doing? What's going on? Nothing has changed, I think, from last turn to this turn. From a global political standpoint, right? A game state standpoint, we are still in that kind of weird phase where theoretically we have allied with Pelagia and Ulm to attack Van, but there's this kind of weird sort of like Ulm kind of dragging their feet because they really want to take these Arco territories, right? And Arco actually, I think, actively still attacking specifically Ulm in situations. And then Pelagia is, consistently gearing up to attack Van, but it's the combination of still moving to take things from me, things that we negotiated about, and then kind of being like, are we doing this? Is this happening or not? Right? Kind of situation. So it's a very, unfortunately, I feel like the longer we wait, the worse things get. And unfortunately, it does feel like we're just waiting longer and longer. It's a part of me now starts to question, right? We ended the war with Pelagia like 5 turns ago, I think, 4 or 5 turns ago. And now I'm starting to be like, are we attacking Van next turn? Are we attacking Van the turn after that? Is it going to be 3 or 4 turns from now? Right? Is it... So now my mindset is starting to go towards that concept of like, maybe I should have just stayed in the war with Pelagia, right? Like, obviously that risked me losing strength, right? Losing power, because Pelagia was not a pushover. Pelagia was fighting back, right? And it's so there's that kind of like overhanging scenario. I think in the moment that I made the decision, that we really made the decision, right? Because it was a mutual decision for peace. I think in the moment that we made the decision was the correct one to make. We really didn't know whether or not Van was going to try to end the game in that next turn or two. And I think Van could have tried to end the game in that next turn or two. But at this point, it's kind of like, why should Van make any rushed movements, right? Like, if we're not pressuring Van, what's it matter? And I'm not going to play a blame game, right? Like, I've done plenty of stuff to let Van off their leash. So this is just kind of like one of those very rough situations where it kind of, if we're going to have a hope of defeating Van, Pelagia and I need to attack Van together, all at the same time. If we go in piecemeal, Van's going to slaughter each one of us in turn. Without any, and I don't even mean like if one turn we're off, like I go one turn, Pelagia goes the next turn, Ulm goes the next turn, Van will just smash me, then smash Pelagia, then smash Ulm, and it'll be like, okay, whatever. We kind of have to go all together or not at all, so it's kind of a rough situation. So instead of doing any of that, right, we already kind of talked about this. We're taking Obelshin from Arco, right? There is the chance that this is going to provoke Van, and Vanheim's gonna fight me in Obelshin. That's possible. There's the chance that me taking a 4th throne puts the hackles up or raises the hackles on Pelagia and Ulm, but I don't think that matters at this point, right? And there's also the chance that what is here in Obelshin kind of fucks over what I have in Silver World. Hopefully that's not going to be the case, but that is a possibility. So everything that we're doing this turn is in the vein of two things. It's either prepping for the inevitable war against Van, or it is targeting Obelshin for this attack. So that's pretty much it. Let's jump into actual reportable things, shall we? A bunch of different little earpieces. Oh, I didn't, fuck. Would have been like 6. I've been bad at taking notes here recently. Let's talk about some recruitment real quick. We have a little bit of recruitment going on. Recruitment for the turn. We have 1 Lizard Shaman, 1 Akla, 1 Malqui Priest, 1 Hydromancer, and 5 Sun Guard. So mostly we are just continuing to put together little forces here or there, use our gold as we can. We don't have a lot of it, but we don't have a lot of it, and what we do have of it is mostly going towards things like temples. So a few little mages here or there to try to spot check what we're doing. I think the only real like different thing is down here, or over in Silver World, we're getting a Malqui Priest so that we can start freaking summoning undead over here, right? If we are able to take Obelshin and hold it, then it's going to be a point of contention for Vanheim, right? So we're gonna need to have enough chaff there to try to soak things up. So immediately gonna start producing Long Dead there, which I guess brings us over to. My God, I'm really bad at taking notes today. I just ignored that whole scenario. Which brings us over to Nazcan recruits. So Nazcan recruits for the turn. We have 54 Hatan Runa. We have 320 Long Dead Warriors. Love it. We have 28 recalled Supayas and 2 summoned Supayas for 14 more Supayas. That's a total of, where are we sitting at? 42 Supayas? That was quick math. 38, yeah, 42 Supayas. Seems okay. And then another 1 summon Huaka for 7 more Huaka. I am relatively happy with where we're at and with what we have accomplished in this game. Obviously, I would prefer if we had like another capital and we had growth scales instead. We would have more Royal Malquis out, and we would be probably free spawning more, not free spawning, but recalling more Supayas, probably with the target of like 80 or so in mind. But that's not really achievable with the resources that we have currently, so it is what it is. We have special recruits for the turn. 1 Direwolf, 1 Dustwalker, 1 Air Elemental, 3 Sylphs, and 3 Earth Gnomes. So kind of business as normal there. People who we have access to that are just kind of sitting around or that are holding defensive points, right? We have Nefeli here, we have Aya over here in Amul. So we're kind of in that vein of individuals who could summon things to help us shore up these defenses or threaten these thrones, right? I think things like Sylphs make a difference, right? I think things, well, maybe not a big difference, but I think things like Air Elementals potentially make a difference, even just size 4 ones, right? So I think those are worth summoning. The other kind of big initiative, aside from shoring up our borders, making sure we are able to both defend and prep for attacks, right, is trying to make sure we don't die to Dom killing. So we have buildings for the turn, 2 temples going up. I think we have, where is it? 1 temple in Sea of Woe, and what's the other one? Oh, we're putting it over here in Duspris. Right, so 2 temples going up this turn. Temples can only do so much. We're preaching basically everywhere that we can. So, combination of preaching on our borders. We have people preaching over here, preaching over here. We're basically moving. We've moved Huron priests out into most locations to try to preach, right? To try to like fight back the Dominion of Vanheim, and to push our Dominion into the territory that we actually control. We're also going to be claiming the Throne of Death this turn, the Throne in Blackport. We probably should have already claimed this anyways. It is just going to add to our Dominion spread. It gets us more Death Gems, which are very vital to us right now. We can turn that into a little bit of power. And honestly, 1 death per turn is not really that big of a deal at this current point in time, right? We wouldn't want it for many turns, but hopefully we're 99% sure that this is the Throne of Life, and hopefully we're going to take this and that'll counteract the Throne of Death anyway, so we won't have to worry about it. Scaling at this point is kind of out of the options anyways, so not really a big issue there regardless. So we'll see how that goes. And then we have a fair amount of rituals for the turn. So rituals, 1 Voice of Apsu, 1 Arcane Probing, 2 Arcane Probing, 2 Haru Specs, 1 Revive King, 1 Transformation, 3 Manifestations, and 1 Murdering Winter. Let's talk about those things. No need to talk about the site searching. That's just my OCD kicking in. Transformation. Let's talk about that. We have over here Pakwa of the Mountain Spirits. We got a little plan here. I am actively looking to try to get a size 6 creature. We're going to fish for some transformations with this Pakwa of the Mountain Spirits in the hopes that we are going to get like a giant or something like that, right? Something that is a size 6 creature and has slots, hand slots preferably, but we'll make do depending on what we have to try, right? And the plan there is that we're going to try to create a golem killer, right? We're going to have a individual, right? This Pakwo. We're gonna, and this is a fucking investment. We're gonna put a helmet of air on this thing, probably, right? Or winged helmet, so that it's air too. And we're probably gonna put something like a midget masher on there. Fucking, my god, the terminology in Dominions kind of fucks with me. Like, I would love, I mean, it's a game. And it's a game about conquering the world and killing people, and there's slavery in it. And there's so much in the game that I'm just like, oh god, could we chillax on some of this? But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna fight over it. Anyways, this is a weird investment, but what we can do is we can create a, if we're lucky, right? If we get lucky with transformation, we can create a golem killer that can cloud trapeze at a golem and fly to that golem and one-tap them, right? Most golems at this stage of the game are going to do things like Rings of Returning, right? Or the chess piece, whatever it is. We know that Van has golems, has used golems. We potentially might start making our own golems, we'll see. But this is definitely something that we have to be concerned about. And we don't really have a lot of potential counters for it. This is one potential counter. Could go well, might not go well. Might not matter because we might fish for like several turns and never get what we're looking for. So, but this is a weird little potential transformation option that we're giving a try. 3 manifestations. We got the manifestation cannons going on over in Illidan. We talked about this last turn. We moved them over there. We're prepping to cannon, or not prepping to cannon. We prepped last turn to cannon 3 manifestations at Obelshin. Manifestation, I think is a decent use of 5 death gems. you can gear to, or you can prep towards it, right? You can make it to where it's not super efficient. You can put things like, I think it will target, actually, well, it doesn't matter if it doesn't target stealthy units. You can just produce a bunch of scouts, and you don't have to have them hiding. You can just have them waiting in a location, and, you know, if a manifestation kills a scout, whatever, right? But if you haven't done that, manifestations surprisingly good at picking off even powerful mages, right? So it's very possible that we can upset something that's being prepped in Obelshin with the manifestation. And then the other thing is we're casting Murdering Winter. We hit Obelshin with Woven Winter. That was both a test to see, hey, are there any domes here? No responses there, so we're all good. So one, that let us manifestation, and two, we're also going to Murdering Winter the shit out of this place. And Arco is a great target for Murdering Winter. Arco does not it's a human nation, right? So Arco in the late game, everything that it has except for elephants can die to a Murdering Winter. So it's potentially pretty powerful. We'll see how it goes. The hope is that Murdering Winter, a couple manifestations are going to really weaken Arco's ability to defend this location, and that this big ol' stack that we're moving on, as you can see, moving on a big-ass stack onto Obelshin, is something that Van won't want to mess with at this current point in time. But we'll see. Van might just be like, fuck that, and hit it with 13 flames from the sky. We'll see. There's not really much we can do against that type of shit. We have to try to make plays at this point. Otherwise, Van is just gonna blow the game out of the water. Like the point of that might have already happened, but we'll see. There's nothing crazy interesting about what we've got going on. Just a whole shit ton of Long Dead. We've got our big batch of Supayas, a strong amount of Huakas, and yeah. Should be pretty good. All of the regular buffs going up, a fair amount of quickening going up, a fair amount of water elementals getting summoned. We've got a couple of these Mound Kings kitted out with these Eye of Aiming Golden Arbalests, so they actually have relatively high precision. And they can fire at targets very early on, right? Like a Golem, for example, pops into the battlefield. Well, you know, this Golden Arbalest has a very high chance of hitting something like a Golem and sending it returning. So we have a couple of those going on. Army of Gold, all of the resistance buffs, Wailing Winds going up, anti-magic, all of that jazz. Yeah, so pretty much all around the vast majority of things happening. Should hopefully be good. Fingers crossed. And that's that. Let's talk about other things. We got Ultimate Gateway, I guess, is something to remember. 6 Astral saved and 8 Death saved this turn. Nothing crazy big there. Just continuing to save gems. It would be so much record keeping. I wish this information was in the game already. It would be, I think, really cool if somewhere in statistics, right? In your score graphs, or in your nation overview, or in an entirely separate tab, if you could look back at basically all the shit I was doing when I was doing the year recaps, right? Look at all of the gold you've made, all of the gold you've spent. Look at all of the gems you've acquired and where you acquired them from. All of the gems you spent, all of the gems you saved, right? Like, there are games out there that report just a colossal amount of information, like damage taken, damage mitigated, damage dealt in this form, damage dealt like take League of Legends for example, right? Like League of Legends, and obviously apples to watermelons in this fucking instance, but a game like League of Legends can report on a match the damage that you did, right, as your character, the damage that you took as your character, the types of damages that you did, whether it was like physical damage, magical damage, true damage, those types of splits, the amount of kills, assists, blah 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 blah. The amount of damage healed, the amount of damage negated, right? There it reports on just a metric shit ton of information. Obviously, I don't want all of that style of information for every single unit in this game. That would be absurd, right? But this game does already report on a lot of stuff. It reports on things like, you know, how many units has a unit killed? Like, how many kills does this unit have? And there's a lot of other stuff. Like, I don't think it would be crazy difficult to report on just a ledger of, on turn 1, your income was this. On turn 2, your income was this. On turn 3, your income was this. The total amount of income you have had throughout the entire game is this, right? Here was your upkeep. Boom, 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 boom. Here's the amount that you spent. Boom, 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 right? Like, here's the gems that you got. Anyways, it's just like, I love being able to see things and track things and understand patterns and things like that. And this type of game, to me, I would absolutely just adore being able to be like, oh, we can track, like really good players, take really good players and take that screen, that information, and be like, oh, we see these trends of these really good players tend to do this type of thing, as in, I'm just gonna make arbitrary kind of concepts here, right? Like, we see that really good players tend to, in the early to mid game, always burn through their air gems making owl quills, always burn through their death gems reanimating for chaff, right? Blah 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 blah. It's just interesting to be able to determine those types of things, and right now we don't have the reporting tools for it. That was a wild tangent. Let's move on to actually talking about the game that's happening. Forging for the turn. We have 1 skull staff, 1 lightless lantern, 1 copper arm, 2 amulets of the dead, 2 midget mashers, 1 arcane lens, 1 slave matrix, and 1 gate cleaver. So, a couple of new things here. Let's talk about a few of them. Mostly normal stuff, so we don't have to go super in depth on things like a skull staff. We're just getting more skull staffs for more liches, simple, easy peasy, or for more Huron priests in the right situation, more Koyas in the right situation, simple, easy peasy, right? Lightless lantern, don't have to talk about that. Amulet of the dead, don't have to talk about that. Now we get into some other things. Copper arm, we're making a copper arm. On our god, actually. What do we want a copper arm for? Well, we had talked about the transformation going on with the mountain spirits. If we run into a situation where we have something that is mostly what we want, like maybe a manticore or something like that might be okay. I think manticores can wear helmets and not just crowns. I don't remember, though, so maybe that's a bad example, but something that meets most of the requirements, right, that we need, and just doesn't have a hand slot. Well, we can put a fucking copper arm on it and then put a midget masher in that copper arm, and then it can still do the job that we need it to do. Alternatively, if we get lucky and we get what we want out of this transformation, and we don't have to do that, then the copper arm is still a very useful tactic or item for if we are going down the Master and Slave, or Mass and Slave? Master and Slave? What's it fucking called? Master and Slave. Master and Slave route, right? So if We are, if we have another 10, 15, 20 turns, we have 33 Astral Pearls. We could start empowering. We should have already done this. But I was very much focused in a oh god, need to do this thing, oh god, need to do that thing, rather than a where do I need to be 30 turns from now. So we could start empowering a Royal Malqui to be a teleport master and slave caster, right? So teleport master and slave being most effective when you have a lot of pin gear. So a kind of like perfect storm pin Royal Malqui would use a copper arm for one of its pieces to use a rune smasher for an additional penetration, and then would use the fucking the Eye of the Void for 2 pin and the Spell Focus for another pin. So having 4 pin, and then using probably a miscellaneous slot for like a Ring of Sorcery or a Crystal Coin or something like that to help you get the extra stages up there. Anyways, that's an option, right? But that's a further in the future option. That's not something that we're probably going to be worried about right now. The copper arm is if we need it to do this transformation, and if we don't, then it can be useful later on for a Royal Malqui, probably, right? The midget mashers we've already talked about. If people don't actually know what a midget masher is, some people are new to the game that are watching this. The unfortunately named midget masher is a earth weapon, level 1, or it's this is construction 4, right? So construction 4, 5 cost, 5 earth, right? High damage bludgeoning, 2-handed weapon, right? Nothing crazy stellar on these statistics. This is the big thing. It is ×2 versus smaller beings. So, if you put this in the hands, this base 20 damage weapon, this is base 20 damage plus strength, right? Plus it's 2-handed, so it's actually 25% more of your strength added. So if you have a 20 strength creature, right? 20 strength creature is going to add 25 damage to this. So it's going to be 45 damage, and it's going to be doubled versus anything under size 6, right? If you're a size 6 creature. So you're hitting for 90 damage on a smaller creature, right? Which means a lot of times you can do something like one-tapping a golem. Right? This is, I think, the time that I see the majority of these get used. Although I have seen certain situations where, like, commanders that you can kit out to face off against, like, sacreds, like elf sacreds or things like that. This is pretty cheap, right? And you can make this with a dwarven hammer for only 3 earth. So if you have commanders that are like size 4 or size 5, and you know you're going to go up against a fair amount of like sacreds or just anything tough that's size 3 or less, you can actually kit out little gangs with this item that go around and they just poop, one-tap people, boop, one-tap people, boop, one-tap people. Magic weapon will break through things like fog warriors, etc., etc. So pretty cool, pretty useful. I think only gets used in niche situations. Blech, can't speak today. But yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. Anyways, so we've got that going on. I don't really know why I'm making 2 of them. That seems a little over the top. I guess there is the odd chance that transformation could give us one of the weird, like, multi-armed, like several-armed, not just 2-armed, but several-armed things. I think that's an option, and if that's the case, we could put 2 midget mashers in there, but I don't think that that would be a good idea, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to fish for a one-tap and You're not going to get multiple instances of damage there. I guess there's the scenario of if the first one missed, the second one could hit and proc, but anyways, next up, Arcane Lens. This is actually an interesting item that I don't think we have made previously, but I think we've talked about it. Arcane Lens is spell range +1 province or +25. It's pretty expensive at 15 astral, right? But, I mean, we're getting 33 astrals, so it's not that big of an expense. This is super useful for increasing the length of spells that you need to cast further. In our particular instance, right, this is going to be useful for doing things like Gateway, probably. Or potentially we could even use this for extending manifestation ranges or things like that. But mostly this is like a gateway tool. Because right now, for example, we can't get from Sat Randith. I think gateway is 6, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? We can't get from Sat Randith over to Silver World to reinforce Obelshin. But if we throw an astral or an arcane lens on to a gateway mage, then we can, right? So there's that option. And then the other two things, one is the slave matrix. Slave matrix is interesting if you are unaware of what that is. Who is making one? Blah, blah, blah. I think we can make it here, actually. So we have the Crystal Matrix, Slave Matrix, Crystal Heart, that whole scenario. Crystal Matrix, you're automatically a Communion Master as soon as the battle starts. Slave Matrix, you're automatically a Communion Slave as soon as the battle starts, right? So this is an alternative. So again, this goes to kind of like the Master and Slave tactic. If we make a bunch of slave matrices, we can throw them on 30 Aklas, right? Because we don't care at that point. But we can throw them on a bunch of Aklas, and instead of having to empower a Royal Malqui 5, because they have probably a crystal coin 5 times, right? To cast Master and Slave immediately. We could instead empower them like 3 times. It can still be very difficult, right? It would matter. Again, there's a lot of different gear. There's a lot of different gear setups. You can do like golems with like the banner for Light of the Northern Stars. There's a lot of different moving parts and pieces that you can create basically an instant, a turn 1 Master and Slave cast, right? And we have not invested what we need to invest in order to pull that off. And it might be too late for us to get there, but right now, doing 1 Slave Matrix a turn is pretty easy for us to do. And even if we don't intend on doing this for that, Slave Matrices are still a good way to transform our Aklas into useful tools in the late game, since we don't have a lot of fire gems to do, like, fire in a jar and turn them into Pillar of Fire casters. So, alternatives. I'm just looking for alternatives with the resources that we have. Boy Bean, why are you pulling at me? All right, and then the last one is the Gate Cleaver. We've talked about Gate Cleavers before. We've produced Gate Cleavers. We have Gate Cleavers. And this is just an opportunity, right? If we are going to be fighting Van, I think fighting Van in individual big stacks is going to get us killed. Very likely, right? It is all but guaranteed at this point in the game that Van has more firepower than we do. So, we're going to need to diversify. We're going to need to hit a lot of different little places at the same time. And gate cleavers are very helpful for that. We actually have a fair amount of earth income, so gate cleavers help take a stack of 30 supayas that wouldn't break through a fortress in 2 turns and make it actually be able to do that, right? So gate cleavers are pretty good for that type of scenario. They're also armor negating and very high damage weapons, so they're in a pinch not the worst thing that you could throw at a super combatant or something like that to try to pop them. They're not the greatest, but they work. And so yeah, that's a lot of what we're doing as far as forging goes. That's a lot of what's happening in the game. Mostly we're just gonna hit Obelshin, hope that we can take these 2 thrones, right? So we're claiming the Throne of Death. Hopefully we'll take this throne as well. I don't anticipate that that's going to have us poised to win the game at 4 thrones, but I'm hoping that keeps that out of Vanheim's hands, out of his easy reach, right? And then we'll have to see what's what. Hopefully things with Ulm and Pelagia. I say Pelagia. Pelagia, as far as I'm aware, is ready to go. Ulm is the individual that's biting for more time, right? And I don't think me attacking like next turn and Ulm not is gonna be good in the long run. So we wait, and I die inside a little. All right, I could still be fighting Pelagia. All right, that is gonna be the end of this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.